producer and director. That is unfair.
That made one hungry.
That's unfair. I'm
salivating.
It's criminal. Come on. Haba.
For people who haven't had breakfast.
For people who can't find another to go and buy those things. That's wicked.
Oh, dear. You can't buy prawn. You can't buy prawns and tell the woman you want to transfer. 500 naira vegetable. I'm going to do transfer for 500.
No, she will transfer the vegetable to you too. Well, you see, most people give up on balanced diet, especially in this age and time. Come on.
It's hard to balance it now.
To balance even the account.
To start with.
You know, because, of course, there's that confusion on how to combine homemade food like eba or fufu, or what was that one? The starch in the Niger Delta.
Starch?
Starch.
Yes, it's called starch. And I love it.
And fura. Kai. Into their diet. So, eating a balanced diet is not an expensive endeavor. But if you are able to infuse Nigerian foods into your balanced diet or balanced plan, maybe you'll be able to have a healthy goal or achieve your healthy goal of, I don't even know how to put that.
What? Why are you suddenly stalling?
That picture is very, 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 very wicked.
The man is still salivating.
Come on.
Never mind.
That is what they call internal affairs. No shaki.
Unfortunately, you can't internal affairs right now because there's no... Except you go and buy your shaki from the supermarket, of course.
Which is more expensive.
Buy your shaki. They pack them now, you know, in supermarkets.
Yes, it is more expensive.
Of course it is.
I won't be able to
the
say...
air conditioning, their packaging.
I won't be able to say 5,000, no, 2,000. I won't be able to negotiate.
Okay, you want to eat that thing, right? Go to the supermarket and buy your momo.
Well, we want to talk about how you can, within the means of what we have as a people, create a healthy lifestyle with Nigerian foods. This morning we have Ukoh, who is a nutritionist, join us to have this conversation. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Ayo. My pleasure to be here.
What do you think of that picture?
It was wicked.
Wicked?
That's all I can say. And it actually looked like Iquo, you know, with some, you know, dry smoked prawns peeping out. I saw something that looked like shaki somewhere, you know, edging on the side of the plate. This
is surgical analysis.
And all that was needed was, you know, well-made fufu to go with it.
Or pounded yam.
Or pounded yam, whichever.
Oh, God.
Let me just report my children to you.
They shouldn't do this to us again, please.
Let me report my children to you.
Tell me.
They watched that video where you said our solid...
tennis ball size.
Tennis ball size.
Mm-hmm.
If it was for you, it would have been understandable because you already play tennis. I don't play tennis. And I don't like tennis. Now, they almost literally measured, Daddy, you are not supposed to eat more than that. What's your business? Wow. Are you buying?
Makes sense what they're telling you.
So
makes sense.
That's just to say.
Yes.
And I will also, maybe they have started reducing, I will start reducing something. E.g., their pocket money. Yes. Yes. Well, everybody getting on.
We'll see.
But you know, the challenge of a healthy lifestyle with food, first of all, how significant a challenge do you think it is?
You know, I always say that if we can just manage the food side of things, which is the preventive health side, then our visits to the hospitals will be minimized. Yeah. And really, this is not any time you should step at the gate of any hospital. Because it looks as if there's an instruction that from the gate man to the receptionist, you should not be allowed to leave that hospital without dropping money.
Plenty of it.
Plenty of it at that. So when we manage what we eat better and we make healthy choices, then you find out that, you know, our visits to the hospitals are minimized. That's what preventive health is all about. And that's what food brings to us. Of course, in addition to managing today, for later years in terms of, our health and our ability to be functional even as we get older.
Why is it a challenge?
I think the first thing is knowledge. Or should I say too much knowledge these days? Because you hop on the internet and my goodness, there's so many things going on. I also see that even nutrition as a subject is evolving. It has been evolving for years. 1 minute they tell you egg, you can't eat so much egg because of cholesterol. And also, don't forget, there's a lot of food politics going on.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Food politics, that's new.
Depending on which ingredient seems to favor a certain country or business, then you start to run that ingredient down. I take palm oil, for instance. Because we consume quite a bit of palm oil here, oh my goodness, there was a time on the internet it was palm oil is the worst thing you can have, in your meals. But soon after, we in Africa, or certainly in Nigeria, realized that people were playing into the political arena of palm oil.
Yeah.
So we started telling them, stop it there. Our palm oil is good enough for us. All we need to do, just like any other fat, manage the quantity, reduce the quantity in your cooking, and that's it. So you have a lot of conflicting things, but I think the major thing is lack of knowledge in making healthy food choices.
And if you remember, after that, all that propaganda then ended, they said that the next thing after sliced bread was palm oil.
Yes.
That you could even be taking one teaspoon or one dessert spoon a day.
Yes.
That it was so good for you.
So, behind all of those things, you find out that there's some politics, some business interest happening there. So one has to be careful about what you pick up on the internet and what you run with as far as food is concerned.
But unfortunately, most of the people who you alluded to having this challenge, vulnerability to health challenges and all, may or may not be in places where they don't have that much access or that significant access to the internet to download all these things. But it would also seem like most of the people in the villages, they eat well anyway.
Yes, they eat well because the foods are available to them. Natural foods are available to them. Most people have back gardens. So your Ukoh is growing at the back of the house, a few okra, plants around the place. They're not heavy into beef, let's face it, how can they even afford it? So they hunt for their antelopes and
it's fresh.
It's fresh.
And it's lean.
Lean. They have their chicken, free roaming around. Free range around the place. So naturally, they're not exposed to what we're exposed to here. Take the average person living in Lagos. You leave home at 5 a.m. You get into traffic. The next thing that appears in front of you is some pastry, being hawked. You grab that, you eat, you get to work, you're seated. So there's everything in the city that works against, the city dweller. And therefore, the person in the city has to make that extra effort to understand what to eat, what to choose from, when to eat, and all of that. The person in the village, you walk miles and miles. So even if you did not want to exercise, you are naturally exercising anyway. You're moving. So those are the things that differentiate the two people.
We're talking about creating a balanced diet with our own foods. So, that soup now, that's the place to start.
You see? That it's not easy to ignore.
That wicked picture that was shown. Give us some examples of balanced diets, plural, using our own foods only.
Generally, if I just go with this simple soup and swallow, particularly vegetable soup and swallow, is all complete there. All you need to do is to add fruits for the day and, drink a lot of water. Now, where does the problem come from? I think it's about even the soup and swallow is the portion. Because if I go for 4 tennis balls of eba and a little soup, there is an imbalance there. Okay. It is still soup and swallow. So it's about also proportion within what we have.
My apologies.
Yes.
You speak to the general understanding of many people. I want to eat. The first thing I want is to belleful. Once I'm hungry, I want to fill my tummy and feel satisfied.
Yes.
That is the number one concern of most people.
And I'm not going to feel that way with 1 tennis ball.
I'm not going to feel that way with 1 tennis ball swallow. Okay. And the soup, we have to eat it like 10 times before you go finish.
Okay, let's start from the basics. When we say balance, what are we balancing? We're balancing proteins, which we could have from fish, meat, beans, and all of that. We're balancing that with having some carbohydrates like a rice and eba, plantain, all of those things. And we're also putting somewhere there vegetables. Ugu, water leaf, carrot, cabbage, okra, all of that are vegetables. Then, of course, fruits, and then water. In this mix, most likely, we are going to use palm oil or some oil, to cook it. So already that's a balance. Now, within those groups, we're saying focus a lot more on vegetables and fruits. Have more vegetables in that whole mix. By the way, you might not have this for every meal. Let's face it, the reality is that you might not. But we're saying throughout the day, ensure that you have those. If you can afford it, please, by all means, let's have all of that in the mix. Now, if we come to today, if I look at the average person living in the city, I take a normal stew, for instance. Stew is pepper, tomato, onion, you fry, you add your protein. Do you know you can do so much with that stew? I think the Yorubas have learned to do it much more than people from the southeast, because you have your basic stew. Okay, you want to eat eba. You make ewedu, which is jute leaf, or you make okra, or you make a vegetable and mix with it. Stew. In the southeast, I remember then in school we used to call it chemistry soup. Now, if you're not from the southwest, look, I can make stew for a week, which I do. Midweek, I stop by at the market and I buy green, what the Yorubas call, I think, tete. And just chop it. No, nothing, just stir fry in a frying pan. Of course, you clean and not wash and all that. Stir fry and add to the stew with your rice by the side. That same stew you had cooked. So day 1, you eat it as it is. Day 2, you add spinach if you want. Day 3, you can add carrot and cabbage to the same stew when you have portioned yours. So there are so many ways we can stretch that. So it's not that every time you want to eat, you then go and tick the calendar. But we're saying, just use your eye. Vegetables and fruit should be about half of that plate. You have your carbohydrates, you have your proteins, of course, depending on your age. Because this whole story about tennis ball size is for adults like you and Alero.
I'm a very small boy. I'm a young youth.
Most of the time, let's face it, you have cars. You're seated. You're sedentary. So we don't need as much. But for the young children that are running around and young adults, yes, they do need that. But even for them, we should manage all of this, because when they get older, certain things will start to manifest.
Let me sneak this in, that the children.
Yes.
You were here one day when we had a girl who said she had to literally incentivize the children to eat vegetables.
Yes.
How do we?
Oh no, there are easy ways. You can blend vegetables into things.
Okay.
Because when you leave it in little chunks, they sort it out and leave it for you. I mean, if I want, there are ways of mixing it. There are ways of incorporating it into lollies. You make mango is in season, for instance. Now you blend mango, and put it in a popsicle and put a stick there, it's frozen. They're having fun with it, licking it. And in that mango, if you want, you can actually blend a little carrot into it. They won't know because the color is yellow and orange. They'll hardly know. They've taken what they should take, and you move on. It's about being creative, even with the food that we have. You know, so there's so many ways we can get children.
You said something very important the other time, and I don't think we should gloss over it. And I think many people should actually pay attention to it. And that's the fact that people do not have enough education, or maybe they have information, but not education about nutrition.
Absolutely.
What are the basic steps that need to be known and taken for one to at least, and easy?
Yes.
Because as you said, the average Lagosian or average urban Nigerian lives a fast life.
True.
Always on the move. So what are those things that you would say are basic, easy, non-complicated, that they need to do as frequently as possible in their days or weeks to maintain this healthy lifestyle with food?
So let me start with fruits and vegetable. I would say for fruits, for instance, go for fruits that are in season. We have agbalumo in season now. We have mango in season now.
Agbalumo, slapping jaw.
Yes, or African star apple. So check out fruits that are in season. They'll be cheaper then. Enjoy it while it's there. Of course, when it's not in season, yes, it will be more expensive, but go for that. Vegetables, I think we're so blessed with vegetables in this part of the world. Every street market that you pass by, you'll find ugu, you'll find green. Make sure you add that to your meal. The proteins, yes, today they're very expensive. I mean, to buy beef of 2,000 naira, my goodness, you have to cut it like fly eyes, to identify it in the soup. So, but there are cheaper alternatives. Not, when I say cheaper, I mean cheaper, not that it's inexpensive. Something like shower, we call it bonga fish.
Bonga fish is expensive now.
I know, but it's cheaper than beef. It is good protein as well. You could have that, blend it, and add it to the soup. Then you go to the carbohydrates. I would always recommend, let's go for maybe whole grains where we can find them. And I'm talking about millet. Is something we hardly consume, certainly not in the South. Millet is what you use to...
millet?
You boil. You just boil millet. I have used it for, I use it for breakfast. You boil millet till it is soft, and all I do is that I add yogurt, liquid yogurt to it, and it is fantastic.
So it's supposed to be like a cereal?
It's like a cereal, breakfast cereal. So instead of going for expensive things, there's so many cheap alternatives. I said millet, I said fonio. We call it acha in the north. These things are available. So if we maybe shift our attention a little bit from the familiar and expensive...
Which is what, my apologies, I've been a little disturbed.
Yes.
Disturbed, not just concerned. Because they say that concern is diplomatic language. Disturbed by the fact that we seem to have just a few options these days. Rice, beans, what else?
Yeah.
Swallow. And even the swallow is limited. Amala, eba, fufu,
pounded yam.
No, poundo. In most cases.
Yes.
Only those four. Where are the other Nigerian foods?
They're there. The foods are there, but we are not making use of them. I think it's about familiarity. We're all familiar with rice, and that's it. If I take acha, for instance, a cereal that takes you less than 5 minutes to cook. I mean, the average time that it will take you to cook a cup of rice is about 10 to 20 minutes.
20 minutes. How does acha look?
It's like a little sand, grains of sand. But you have the destoned acha package you sell in stores. It's not very common in the South, I would agree. But you can use acha when it's blended for swallow. It has low glycemic index, particularly for people that have diabetes. It is gluten-free for those that are, allergic to gluten. But again, it's back to what do we know? But if you go to the streets of Kano or Jos and Tokacha, everybody's familiar with it. But if you come to the South, there's something about also resistance, even for us as Nigerians adopting each other's foods. When I show things like me and Kuka, for the average Yoruba person, it is Kilelei.
No, but I grew up on my street. I lived on the island when I was very small. Fakolujo Street, Lagos Island, not too far from Itafaji. On the street, they sold tuwo.
Yes.
With, was it Begiri that they were selling? I don't even know. But the thing...
Yeah, me and Taushe, tuwo. And, but what happens is that if you go to the settlements in Lagos, take Agege, for instance, or Idiaraba, where you have the Hausa settlement, you find those foods. Yes. But is the adoption of these foods by other
tribes?
Yes.
You know, madam, we're running out of time, but I'm going to compel you to agree to something. You have to support me on this. We need to have a short recordings of you, 5 minutes.
Yes.
Make this. This is what it will give you, and these are the benefits or health benefits, as you said, because if we can cut down on how much we spend on treating these ailments, there's a high chance that we'll buy insurance for ourselves and wait for government to catch up on us.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I mean, there's so much we can do. I mean, as a food blogger, I share a lot of these things on my timeline. But I think it's also about being deliberate to go the way you have. You said it, which is little snippets, just to help people make choices. And because also the disposable income to buy expensive food
is reducing.
It's reducing. Yeah. So we need to do that.
We have to thank you. After the election, we're going to bring you back. Then we will know where we are going. Ukoh is a nutritionist and Iquo Ukoh is a nutritionist, and please don't just use that word nutritionist for fun. It's not be yoke. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. You need a lot of energy to do the thing that our next guest does. And that energy has come from this kind of food. Well, who is this guest? We've been told that he's a he. He's a he.
We can tell you now, because he's going to walk in another 2 minutes or so.
But we'll not tell you now. After now.